Well, hello, this is Jeffrey Cranford from Links Players International again, and I get to the second time now to be with my friend Tom Randall, who's the chaplain on the senior tour, and he's out there about 25, 26 weeks a year and just involved in these guys' lives, and we've seen some amazing things go on in the senior tour over the course of the last 13 years now.
13
Tom,
years.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's gone by quick.
Well, my hope is for me to be quiet. My desire is to get Tom to communicate to us as Links players, the guys that find ourselves in and behind the walls of the country clubs or around a particular golf facility, with a desire to share Jesus with our friends, maybe somebody we just pick up on the golf course, but especially those guys that we've known or those women that we've known and been around for a while, but we find it difficult to really engage them. And so, Tom, I mean, you've had how many years? I mean, you played professional basketball, and then how many years on the mission field in the Philippines? I guess up until today, because you're still really very actively involved over there.
Yes.
How many years now?
Well, 36 years on the mission
36
field,
years.
serving the Lord, and I've just gone by so quick. It's been really, really fun. I love being a missionary. I played basketball, and I got to play professionally, but my whole dream and joy of it was it gave me a platform to share Christ and go into the areas of the world where I probably couldn't have gone. It's just a layman.
Sure. What was the real turn for you as it related to your own faith? Where would you say the moment was when you kind of went from believing, and then there was a transition to maturity, and then saying, you know what, I'm gonna vest my life in serving Jesus? What did that kind of process look like?
It's 1976, really. I was leading scorer in the nation. I was averaging 31.5 points a game or whatever, and a bunch of rebounds, and doing very well in basketball. And I just wasn't happy. And my coach, Dick Helm, who went on to coach 20 plus years in the NBA, great coach, great man of God, and a great mentor, he won me to Christ. He shared with me and convinced me that I needed Christ to make me happy, and in basketball or sports or achievement wasn't going to do it. And so coming to Christ, the first thing I thought of was, what can I do for the Lord, because he's done this for me. And I went on a team that went overseas, a group of basketball players, and we went to China. And immediately I wanted to be a missionary. I wasn't trained for it. I wasn't ready for it, but that's what I wanted to do.
Which, by the way, Tom, I think is exactly what God's looking for. He's just looking for a willing heart.
Here's what I found, Jeff, that's really important. I was not trained to be a pastor or a minister or a missionary. But I did read a story in the Bible about a woman with the oil in 2 Kings, and what God asked her was to give what she had, not what she didn't have. And so it taught me to say, Tom, what do you have to use, rather than what don't you have, what training don't you have? And I said, I can play basketball. I could play anywhere. And so I was good enough to play anywhere, so I went anywhere. But when I went with the express belief and feeling that if I could serve the Lord in some way, wherever I'm at, I'll do it. And sometimes I did play basketball professionally. If I got on TV or interview, I tried to share my faith always. Sometimes I did color commentary. I did a golf tournament in the Philippines as a basketball player, because they needed somebody who could speak Tagalog and somebody who could speak English to the viewing audience. So I said, oh, I'll do that. And that was my first exposure to golf. I never knew later that I'd be a chaplain on the tour. Sometimes I did interpretation for the British Broadcasting System during the Revolution. Anything I could to get into other areas that I could share my faith. And I found out that you don't have to be an expert to share your faith. 2 commandments he gave us: love the Lord your God with your whole heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the 2 most important, and from that you can win a lot of people to Christ, I think, just by loving them. And if you do, you'll see their need once in a while. One of our players on the tour, Australian, Stuart Ginn, or again, however you want to pronounce it, he was a great player, and he came on our tour, and he was considered one of the great wild men, and running across the bar without his clothes on and that kind of stuff after he win a tournament. And he had his wife was Chinese, so she was from China, he was from Australia. They lived in Kuala Lumpur, and they played on our tour. And they were having fights, And so one day I went up into their room because they were having a fight, and they wanted me to referee. And in the midst of that, I just shared with them about, there can be peace in Christ, And, Stuart started getting on, and he started coming to the Friday night Bible study. Now, she was back and forth from Kuala Lumpur to here. Once in a while, she'd come. But he started getting interested. And, of course, he had to catch the flack from the guys because he was the party guy. What are you doing going to the Bible study? And he says, I like it. And one day I went on to the range. He said, Tom, I need to know Christ. It didn't take me any training or anything to help him with that. I just said, well, here's what I did. Do you want to do it? And he said, yes. And I said, well, let's go in the clubhouse. There's a little privacy. And he got down on his knees on the range and said, I don't need any privacy. I need to do it now.
Oh, man.
And that desperation for Christ is what I love to see in people, that you don't have to try to cajole them or coerce them. It's a redemptive thing. And he came to Christ, and it so changed his life that his Chinese wife came to me and said, what's going on with Stuart? This is fantastic. This can't be happening. So I shared Christ with her, and she came to Christ.
Wow.
Well, then the two of them came to me. They said, we were in Cincinnati. Tom, I said, yes, sir. They said, listen, we were wondering if you'd do something for us. I said, sure. They said, we'd like to get married. I said, I thought you were married. They said, yeah, that's kind of something we didn't take care of. And we'd like to take care of it now that we're Christians. I said, let's do it. When would you like to do it? Well, let's do it immediately, this weekend. I said, okay. So I rushed out. I found a little basketball player in Cincinnati who was a member of a church there. And I said, could you arrange for us to use the church? He said, you speak on Sunday, we'll give you the church on Saturday night. So I said, deal. So we passed the invitations. My wife went to the little Office Depot and made up invitations for a nickel each or whatever, and copied them all off, and we passed around everybody. 7 o'clock at the church, the reception to follow at the hotel. Stuart was buying the meal, and we passed it all around. And on Friday, he played so well, and he had been playing well, that he got a late tee-off time on Saturday. Now we're running into the wedding. So now the word's going around the golf course, player by player, change the invitation time. We're going to start the wedding later. Come later.
Okay.
And the guys on TV were going, something's going out on the course. They must be talking about the weather or something's wrong with the wind. And we're laughing because we're talking about his wedding.
Yeah.
So we did the wedding. And it was a beautiful day, and they committed to each other. Well, little did we know that she has a gift God gave her. Nobody knew it. Even she didn't know it, but she loves to read the Bible, interpret it, and teach women. And she can win women to Christ. It's just amazing how she can share. So she didn't have any training except reading the Bible. So Stuart committed himself to playing golf and supporting her to go everywhere she needs to teach women the Word of God.
Wow.
Well, they finally said, Tom, we need another favor. I said, sure, what is it? We'd like to be baptized. I said, when? They said, as soon as possible. Well, I was in Manila, Philippines when they called me. They were in Kuala Lumpur. I said, well, I guess I could fly over to Kuala Lumpur. And they said, please come as soon as you can. I said, okay, I'll be there in 2 days. I booked the flight. I said, you set it up. Where are you going to get baptized? They said, in our swimming pool, right? Private, in the house. We have a pool right outside. We just invite a couple of friends. I said, okay. I arrived in Kuala Lumpur. I said, hey, it's a lot of chairs. How many people are coming? They said, about 80. I said, I thought you said a couple of friends. Now, I know in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, you can't just do baptisms and evangelize. So I thought, I hope it ought to be okay. It's in his private home. Who's coming? He said, we got all kinds of people. 6 people from the royal family are coming. I said, from the royal family? With their security, obviously. He said, oh, yeah. He said, Tom, what an opportunity. Who gets to invite the royal family to their party? And I'm thinking, that's great, but that's not good for me because they're going to report what I'm doing, Anyway, they came. I did their baptism. 4 more people said they wanted to know Christ and get baptized. So we put them in the pool. Because of their testimony, they were reaching out to people all over the world. And the people that came to Christ were from Buddhist background, Hindu, a Catholic guy from France, and they were all coming to Christ because of their testimony. And I said, then I told Stuart, Stuart, I could be in a little trouble with the royal family and sharing and doing this baptism and evangelizing. He said, really? I said, yeah, I know you didn't know that. He said, you want me to fly out early? I said, yeah, first flight if you don't mind. So I flew out the very early morning flight and got back to Manila. But it was a wonderful experience about it. Here's a guy now, he goes around and he plays golf everywhere in the world, every country club you can imagine, every golf course. But his purpose as a pro even is to play. He wants to make a living, but he likes to share with the members just what happened to him or watch for a need. And I think all of us can do that. We can all see a guy next to us and say, how you doing? It doesn't take much.